computer. Okay.
Yeah, I have started recording.
Yeah, cool. Thank you. So welcome everyone for session 3 of API testing learning program, an initiative by Oprimes Academy. So today we would be discussing the topics that we have aligned for session 3 for this learning program. So we will have Naveen with us who would be taking you through the topics and the points that we are discussing today. So moving ahead, Naveen, can you move ahead with the slide? Next. Okay, so a quick recap on what we discussed in session 2, right, which was taken by Ovia. So the topics that we primarily learned there was what is RESTful web services, what key elements are related to those, its principal constraints, and primarily the very interesting question that most of you had, that is the difference between API and web services. I think Ovia explained it in previous session with practical and realistic examples. So this is what we have kind of learned and discussed in previous session. So today we would be discussing on topics which is again a component of API only, which is important for you guys to understand before we actually move on to topic of how do we test API. So moving forward. Okay, so session 3 topics today, what we would be discussing or what Naveen would be taking through is understanding APIs, basically JSON versus XML. I think it would be a little technical topic for all of us to understand. I know for any of us to primarily test API, understand how effectively we can test APIs, some technical understanding of these concepts are very important. So in today's topic, primarily we would be trying to understand and discuss about JSON and JSON versus XML. Yeah, over to you, Naveen.
Hello everyone. I guess we had a conversation before, in the first session. So I guess we had an overview about the first part, what is client and what is server in the beginning of the session. So now the let's move on to the third topic is what is JSON and what is the difference between JSON versus XML. So before moving on to the JSON, so I would like you guys to know what is XML and how XML will look, and what is JSON. What are the advantages of JSON? What is the use of JSON? What is the purpose of JSON? And what are the data types in the JSON? And how the JSON looks and what is the syntax of JSON? JSON object and JSON array is a part of JSON data types itself. So, however, because here in most of the time you'll be seeing only JSON object and JSON array. So that is the reason I have created separate topic over here. And finally, at the last, we will be able to discuss what is the difference between JSON versus XML. Okay, so let's get on with the first topic. What do you mean by XML? So does anyone have idea about what do you mean by XML? Or do you guys have any picture about how XML looks like, and what is the purpose it is being used?
So JSON basically it is one of the kind of format through which we can transfer the data over the internet.
Okay.
And it's just like a HTML format we are using for the development to maintain the different kind of database, just like a DBMS. So yeah,
almost up to the mark. Similar to JSON, we have something like XML. So both XML and JSON are used for storing and transferring the data. So but they have their own entity, they have their own entity of transferring. So when it comes to the XML means extensible markup language. So the word extensible means you can create your own tags. You might have seen in the HTML. Let me show you here. See, you can see here, in HTML, you can see there are some defined tags, predefined tags that has to be used. So HT head, body, something like P, something like DOM, all these things these are predefined tags which has to be used for the HTML purposes. So when it comes to XML, like we don't have such predefined tags to be preferably used for the XML. We can create our own predefined tags in case of XML versions. So that is the main advantage in XML version. So one more thing, like as I said, like you guys said, XML is used to store and transport data, and it is used to carry data, not to display data. Because like for to display data, like we are using HTML, not we are not using XML. XML is used to so if XML is supposed to carry and transfer the data. So like as I said, like self-defined tags. So in HTML, like we have their own they have their own set of tags that has to be mandatorily used. In case of XML, like as I said, like we can define our own tags, like self-defined tags we can use it. Platform and language independent means like XML can be developed like irrespective of language. Like we have like a Java, C Sharp, Python, other rest of the things like with the help of this different language, we can develop all the XML, and it helps in easy communication between two platforms. Means, for example, like let's say like you have a database in the which is of the SQL format. You can export you can export to the XML from that SQL format, and you can import the XML into Oracle format. So based on that, like it helps to maintain communication between two formats. So can you guys figure it out something from this XML version? Like what is it saying from this part? Do you have any understanding like what is this defines? Like we can't say simply put all this tags, right? So there has to be some reason behind it to use some tags, right?
Yeah, yeah, hi, Naveen. So what, from my understanding, what I think is that it is giving us idea about two owls, which uh, say for one is with ID 1201 and one is with ID 1202. So for each owl, it is giving us the species name and region. That is what I understood. And it's related to birds. So we have a tag for birds for our understanding.
Perfect, perfect. This was the right answer itself. Like, however, like this is the typical hierarchical structure. So here, like before starting with the XML versions, like we will be defining what is the XML versions we are using. So but this will be we will be declaring the first thing XML version. What is the XML version we are using? Then we will be defining the this thing root element. Root element in the sense like this is nothing but the parent class. Like what is parent in the sense like we are referring parent here as birds. So inside the birds, like inside parents, we have like two childs. Once we have like owl child with ID number 1201 and owl child with ID number 1202. And with there is some small description about this child, like as one of my members, as one of the member you guys said. So the what kind of a species it is from and what kind of name it is from, like what is the name of the owl and what is the region it belongs to. And again, child 2 says the same thing. What is the species it belongs to? What is the name it belongs to? And what is the region it belongs to. Similarly, you can add all kinds of birds and all kinds of entity over here. But like after adding, like you'll have to close the parent. After adding, you'll have to close the child class and you'll have to close the parent class. So this is the hierarchical structure, like how the XML looks up. This is the way it was been designed. So I guess like we got some picture here for how the XML looks. Okay, moving on to the next part is JSON. So I guess like this is the one of the main most important topic, like where you will be coming around like in the now and the future also. So again, I want you guys to say some words about JSON, like what your understanding about JSON, like. Anything is fine, like whatever, like I know like you guys are not familiar with this topic, but whatever, like you will get some picture na, like by seeing all these things. So whatever you say, that's fine, like.
Hello, Naveen.
Yes, bro.
So for as what I've seen is JSON is a easy to read form version of XML. Since XML uses this tags, parent tags, child tags, but in JSON there's this parenthesis, so it's easier to read, and it's also purpose. It also serves the same purpose as XML. That's what I know.
Definitely, you are good. You are absolutely good. So the main reason is like as one of my colleagues said, like it is very easy to read the JSON. XML it's quite difficult to understand, but although we can understand, but the JSON is pretty easy to understand, like what is the content mentioned inside it. So that is the reason we are preferring XML over JSON. So again, like we'll moving on to the first part. So JSON means like a JavaScript object notation. JSON is a syntax for storing and exchanging data, similar like XML itself. Basically, it was designed for human readable format. So with the help of JSON, like we can easily understand what is the content design. So the file name extension is .json. Whenever you are creating a JSON file, the extension should be always like .json file, or else like you will be getting an error over there. So then JSON intermediate type is application JSON. This I'll let you know, like this intermediate type, what it is meant by application JSON. While doing like APIs in the Postman, you'll get to know like what it is and what it might be. So however, like I'll let you know later also. Application JSON. The purpose of JSON, the basic purpose of JSON is to transfer the information from one system to another system, or like to maintain the communication between the client and server. So let me be precise over here. Okay. So however, like we have an idea like how the client and server architecture works. So example, like a client is sending the request. Okay, yeah, forgot here. This is client. This is server. Okay. So now client is sending the HTTP request to the server, and server is sending the response based on the request made by the client. The response is coming in the form of JSON object. The response is coming in the form of JSON object. JSON means, like as I said, like JavaScript object notation. It's just an object which is available in the form of key and value format. This is the key and value format. Like this employee ID is the key, and this one is the value. This is just a typical architecture. Like this is also a typical architecture how JSON looks. Server will send all the information. Like when the client asks, like server will send all the information with what is the employee ID. When the client asks about employee information, server will send all this information like employee ID, employee name, what is the salary of the employee, everything with the server. The server is going to send. But we have a catch over here. Like this is what typically the employee object looks like. This is the employee object in one of the programming languages like Java, .NET, Python. There will be different types of languages in the server, which is already put on by the developer. So this is one of the kind of the object which is developed by one of the languages. So, but we can't send this employee object directly to the client. First, we need to convert this employee object into JSON format, and then we display it on the user and the UI part. Because client does not understand what is Java object, what is Python object, what is C# object, and what is some other object, because they can't understand directly. That is the reason, because JSON is a universal format to transfer the information. That is the reason, like they are converting object into JSON format. So first we will be converting the object into JSON format, and this object into JSON format, this conversion is happening, right? This object into JSON format conversion is called as marshalling. This we have a typical name for that. So you might come across in the interview also, like this object into JSON format conversion is called as marshalling. This after this happening, like when whatever the programming languages at the client, after this conversion of JSON format, so whatever the programming languages at the client side, like JavaScript, HTML, JSON, like some other languages, they have their own thing, right? They'll convert the JSON into simple JavaScript object and display it on the UI and the user. That is the reason we are getting good looking UI. So here we are in between the client and server. There are two operations happening. One is like object is converted, like this JSON object is converted into JSON format. And again, when it moving on to the client part, client is in the client part, like it is happening like JSON format is converted into the object part. This is called as unmarshalling. Here both marshalling and unmarshalling is happening. I'll write down if you want here. Object to JSON format. To JSON is called as marshalling. Again, JSON to object is called as unmarshalling. Okay. This object to JSON, where it is happening? Like I said, like where do you think is happening? Do you get that? Actually, did you get my point, guys? Like,
yeah, from server to JSON.
Yes.
That, yeah.
This is happening in the server side. Okay. Then this part where it is happening, JSON to object.
Client side.
Client side. We don't have any option in third party here. It is happening in the client side. Okay, so this is what happens. This is what happens. Like JSON format, like this conversions will be happening now. Like server is client will be asking request and server is sending the request. This is all the operations happening in terms of JSON format in while the process is been carrying out. Okay. I guess now we got some picture like what is JSON and what will be happening inside JSON. Okay, moving on to the next part is like JSON data types. I guess like these are the data types are supported by the JSON. So whenever we write some data in JSON, right? So we have to specify some of the data types. So we have some data types like number, string, boolean, null, object, and array. So I'm sorry. Okay, the first one will be the string. I guess you guys are familiar with the strings, like what do you mean by string and how it looks like. You guys have some understanding, I guess, like I assume. If not, means like string is nothing but it is basically collection of characters that we are enclosing in the double quotations here, double inverted comma we are mentioning, right? So it is just a collection of characters what we are mentioning over here. So in this part, like we can see name is acting as a key and value is nothing but the John is nothing but the value of the key. You got it right? Name is the key and John is the value of the key. So this is one of the JSON object. Name and John is also a JSON object. So next topic is like next part is numbers. Numbers in the sense like number can be of decimals or integers. Again, like name, age is equal to key and value 30. It is mentioned in the number format and 30 is the value of the key. Okay, next is objects. The values in JSONs can be also be objects. Like objects is nothing but the collection of key and value format. Like as I said, like this is like I mentioned earlier, this is an object. Object is nothing but key and value format. Object is there is if we can mention object inside the JSON also. Here we are mentioning like here we are mentioning key and value format inside the one of the object. Here employee is an object. This is altogether one object. This employee is altogether one object which consists of multiple objects in the key and value format. Name like this is a key, this is a value, this is a key, this is the value, this is the key, and this is the value. This is employees altogether one big object. Okay, moving on to the next one is array. Array means it is a collection of values. For example, like if I want to store multiple values into a single variable, I can use like employee array. In the employee array, I'm storing my your name, my name, other guy name, every name I am storing it, and I am assigning it to the employees of array. So this is the main reason why we are using array. So boolean. Boolean means like we have only two types. Either we have true or we have false. So only we can input only true and false. Here this is the save is the key and true is the value of the save. Then null. Null in the sense, suppose you guys let me know what do you mean by null, because it's already written. Just let me know you have any picture like.
If you don't have to provide any value for that particular object.
Great. Now, see, if you don't want to provide any particular value or if you don't want to assign anything to the particular key, we'll be assigning to the value to the particular key to the null. So that is the reason we are using null. Got it right? So this is one of the, these are all the data types which comes under the JSON. Okay. JSON syntax. So JSON syntax means like JSON syntax. Why we are using means like means to represents the data in JSON format. There has to be some rules and regulations that has to be followed. So we can't put something in key and value format. There has to be some rules and regulations that has to be followed while building the JSON. So that rules and the rule number one is data should be in name and value space. Like this is the name, this is the value. Like this is the name, ID is the name, and this is the value. Last name is the name, and this is the value. Okay, data should be separated by commas. This data, what we are providing in the key and value format, it should always be separated by the commas. This key and value separated by one for comma. This key and value separated by another for comma. And again, curly braces should hold objects. This curly braces, what I'm pointing out, this will hold the object. This is, for example, this is holding the one big object. This and this is holding the small tiny objects. ID1 is holding one object. ID2 is holding one object, and this is holding a very big object. and the square brackets holds array. These brackets are like a students is an array. Student here, student is referring an array which is consisting of two objects. This one of ID1 object and ID2 object. These two objects are stored in the student array. Okay, this is about JSON syntax. Again, like JSON object, because JSON object, like why I have picked up is because like you will be coming, most of the things you'll be seeing around JSON itself. So I want you guys to know much more about it. Like JSON object holds key and value. Guy, I have told you each key is represented as a string in JSON. Here, one more thing. This value can be of different format, like boolean, string, null, whatever it can be. It can be changed every time over here. But this key value should always be specified in the string itself. In the string itself, we'll have to specify everything in the string itself. The key and values are separated by colon. This is the key and this is the value. It has been separated by colon. Each key and value is separated by comma. Again, like each key and value is separated by comma. The curly braces, the curly brace represents JSON object. So again, like this will represent the JSON object. Employee is an object which is representing all these details inside the employee. Okay, JSON array. JSON array represents ordered the list of values, like what are the list contains under it. It represents it. Okay, JSON array can, like as I said, like a JSON array can store multiple values. It can store string, number, boolean, or objects in the JSON array. In JSON array, value must be separated by comma. Like the square brackets represents JSON array. We have covered it. Like okay, JSON array of strings. This is an array of strings. See, we are mentioning only the string parts. Instead, we can mention your names also. Sunday, Monday. Instead, I have mentioned here. So instead, you guys can mention anything. Like JSON array can consist of only multiple values of string also. This is JSON array of numbers, 12, 34, whatever the numbers it can come. You can come here. JSON array of booleans, like we have only two types. Like I said, true, false, true, false. This is JSON array of object. See, this is one JSON object, and like this employee is one of the JSON array. In the employee array, we have like multiple JSON objects here. This is one of the object, like name. Yeah, name is equal to Ram, email is equal to something .com, age is equal to 23, and again one more object, name is equal to Sham, email is equal to 28, something like this. Again, we have three objects, one third object, fourth object. This JSON array can consist of multiple JSON objects. Okay.
Naveen, sorry to interrupt.
Sure. No worries.
So array represented by the big brackets, in the sense square brackets, and the object is represented by the curly braces, right?
Curly braces.
And an array contains different set of objects, but objects cannot contain arrays, right?
Objects cannot contain arrays. Yeah,
that's correct, right?
Object in the sense, like if we are referring something inside the object, we can't refer any array. So, but if we are pinpointing the object into particular value, like employees, we that object can refer like multiple objects. Array. I'm sorry.
Multiple arrays. Okay.
You get to know. Here you can understand. You can understand clear picture here over here.
Sure,
so this is the object stats. Like this is the object starting, and this is the object ending. So inside the object, we have like we have some multiple content over here inside the object, and this is where the one of the object is starting. One of the JSON object is starting, and what this is where the one of the JSON object is ending, and this is where the JSON array is starting. So this is one of the JSON array. It is where it is starting. This square bracket where it is starting, and inside the square bracket we have like a JSON objects. This is one JSON object, and this is another JSON object. Like this JSON array can consist of multiple JSON objects. It there is no limit over here. So JSON array can consist of one object and two objects or multiple objects. And again, it has to be closed. At some point, it has to be closed. When it is open, it has to be closed. So here you guys can understand like when it is standing and when it is moving out. Okay. I guess like you guys are familiar now. You got some pictures about JSON and XML. So I want you guys, one of you guys, to explain like what do you mean by JSON versus XML. There is nothing over here. Like I have already told all the points, and I have mentioned, and it has been specified over here. You guys can explain me like.
Yeah, I can take a chance on that. So JSON is easy to read and write. It's like English like statement, whereas XML is a kind of like simple. That's what it's like that. And it supports both arrays and it supports both objects as well. But XML doesn't support arrays, right? And yeah, it contains it. The JSON can have multiple data types like text, number, string, others as well. So an object can also be a data type, right? No, right?
Objects can also be, object is one of the data types actually, sir. Like as I said you.
Okay.
See, object is one of the data types.
Okay. Sure. But these are not supported in XML, right?
These are not supported in XML.
That's where we moved from XML to JSON in many of the companies, many of the APIs.
I guess like some of the companies are still preferring XML.
Yeah.
But I'm not
it's
sure. Like,
based on the business requirement.
It's based on the business requirement. Like.
Awesome. Thanks.
So again, like last but not least, like it supports only text and number data type. So here we have some more advantages like images, charts, graphs. It can support. Like this is one of the typical example that is been pasted here. So how it looks and how it looks. Here also we can store like a similar way. What we are storing in the employee, we have like one object, two objects, and three objects. Here also we can store like inside employee, we have one object like a name. What is the name and what is the name, Gmail ID? What is his Gmail ID? This is one object. This comes to another object like Rahul with 12 something is Gmail ID. Like another with a name, another guy came and his Gmail ID. Here also we are containing the three objects, 1, 2, 3. But here also we are containing the three objects. But it is more clearly we can understand like inside the employees we have like multiple objects which consist of all of them. Here it is difficult to understand like what does that person belongs to, which group he is belonging to. So that is the reason like JSON is quite taking over to XML. I guess like we come to the last part. I forgot to share you one of the things. Okay, see, like this, I guess you guys are familiar with the Flipkart. I have picked up one product and I have added to the cart. So this is I have taken out the network tab over here. So here you can see the post method is happening. Like after selecting one of the product and adding it to the cart, like there is some operation performing backside. So that operation is called as post method. So here I'll show that application JSON. See this content type. We are getting here this content type in terms of application JSON. This application JSON means like this application is performing. This application is using JSON format. This is nothing but this is what the content type. This is nothing. This is called a content type. JSON means how this is the JSON. Although it's difficult to understand here, but I didn't have much picture here. So this is called JSON. See, you can clearly understand. Object opening here, bracket is opening here, and we have JSON array. API is JSON array. So inside JSON array, we have multiple JSON objects. You'll be able to understand now. I didn't get much clearly about it, although this is what I got. I guess you will get some understanding. Like, see, this is what JSON object is opening, and inside JSON object we have JSON array, and inside JSON array we are also containing multiple JSON objects.
So this is the response we have got, right? Response JSON, right?
Just a minute, I'll go back to that. Where did it go?
That's the request payload, not the response.
Actually, it is the response itself, because in the post we are getting the response, right? So
correct.
In the get, in case of get, like we will be providing the payload. We are not providing any payload. Like we will be providing some of the inputs, but in post, like we will be getting some of the things. So this is the getted part. They are providing something.
But in the top, it is mentioned as request payload. Not sure why.
It is a request. Actually, there is some miscommunication here. So it is post. So we are posting the value there in the request payload. And we are getting the response that you can see in the request tab. Sorry, and we can see the response in the response tab.
Bravo. I guess like in the post, like we'll be providing a payload over here, and we'll be providing importing them to the server. So this is we are creating all this entity, and we are asking the server to update over here with all this details. We are providing these details to update in the server with the help of post request. Yeah, you
can go to response tab. What is there in that response tab?
There's nothing over here.
Okay.
Anyhow, like once you start with the real time, so you'll be able to understand.
Sure, thanks.
I guess like we covered some introduction about XML and understanding some JSON types, JSON versus XML. So any doubts so far?
Hello, Naveen.
Yeah, bro.
Just we compare the JSON and XML. So I think JSON and XML have their own limitations. Like JSON does not support the image or the chart format, right? So in the industry, this you said that based on the business requirement, we go for the either for the JSON or for the XML or for the both one.
That depends upon like how they want to perform. Like
No, just like if I want the response like images and charts, and if the companies follow the JSON, so as we said that JSON would not support the image and chart, then in that case, we go for the XML then.
we can go we can go with the XML also, but like since we are already using JSON, we have some more things with respect to JSON itself where we can overcome all those things. So I guess like we'll be preferring JSON. So that I'm not sure.
Okay. Yeah.
Actually, you are correct. Yeah, we are going with the hybrid model whenever the business required. JSON cannot hold any files type of data. It can hold the files in the format of links only. So we will convert that into a link by using some upload operation and then assign it to a key. That's how we are handling in JSON. Whereas in Excel, you can send it as a file itself.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Hi, Naveen.
Yeah, bro.
You have shown the Flipkart example, right? Like application JSON, it is showing application / JSON. Like that will be any application, public application using XML format.
Public applications, I'll check it and give you the examples which is using the XML.
Just want to know.
Recent days, every applications are using JSON, so I never come up with this scenario, but I will find it and give you.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you think there's a probability that you will use both XML and JSON altogether in the same case and same sprint?
Very, very rare actually. Now that we have overcome the restrictions that we have in XML by JSON, and JSON, even in the performance wise, it is like fast. So whoever starting newly, they will go with the JSONs right now, but the existing framework or the old framework still using XML, and even some new companies are preferring XML based on the other platforms they are choosing. Yeah, but mostly JSON.
Oh, so it depends on necessities.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions?
One question. In JSON, we'll be calling it as key value pair, right? In XML,
Yes.
what we will be calling that? Those
Tags and entities component.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Also element. It calls element.
Okay.
All right, guys. Thanks for joining. Please go through the reference materials we have sent you with this PPT. And for any doubts, you can reach us. And yeah, Naveen, can you go to the next slide? So we will introduce the next two topics. Yeah, in the next session, we will be seeing each components of API. That is, the major one is base URI, endpoints and payload. Payload is just what we have seen, right? So mostly JSON nowadays. So this payload is going to be JSON, which carries the request and response key value pairs. And what is parameter? What are the types of parameter? Types of parameters are nothing but how can we send the request. I mean, if you're requesting something, we need to query something, like we need to mention the employee ID in order to get particular employee details. So there are different ways we can pass this as a parameter. So those are the parameter and its types. So we will see the components next week. Please go through the reference materials anytime. Please reach us. I think that's it for today. Shalini, over to you.
Okay, sorry, my bad. I was in mute and talking. Okay, so guys, that is all we had for today. I would encourage and I would request all of you all to please post your questions proactively in the group that we have created. This is for you guys only. So you don't have to really wait for the weekend sessions. Rather, you can post your questions there, and we are more than happy to address and help you guys with those, or any other feedbacks you have, any other queries you guys have. Feel free to reach us out, and so that you can utilize this entire initiative in a better way. So that's the whole purpose of this. Otherwise, yeah, that is all we had for today. And next session topics, like Ovia just briefed you guys, are important. The study materials where you can self-learn yourself and come prepared for this interactive sessions are already available in your Oprimes profile. So please do refer those, spend some time, do some learning. That would really help you guys. And aside, I just wanted to make one more point also in this specific call. See, the interactive sessions objective or the vision is to kind of brief you guys through the topics that you would have already self-learned and come, where you can ask your questions, ask your doubt, all of those, right? So that is something that we are primarily focusing on. Too much of probably we might not be able to cover all the topics in this 1 hour duration. That is the reason we have created the channel where you can post a lot of questions to us and make a best use out of it. And coming to a practical, providing you guys with more practical examples, like I mentioned, first 3-4 sessions are primarily helping you guys understand the concepts and fundamentals. So we do have a Postman tool usage and how do we test Postman. There you will have more practical hands-on sessions and more practical examples that would be shared across. So yeah, that is something that I wanted to put it across. Otherwise, I think we are done with today's session. Arjun, I just saw your chat. Probably you can ping me the question separately in Oprimes Academy, and I'll make sure Naveen is addressing that to you. If that's
excuse me, Shalini.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, is there any separate channel to discuss about this topic?
Yes, there is a GChat group that we have created, Ashwati. So I would request you to just ping your mail ID at team@Oprimes GChat if you're already part of it, and we will get you added to that group.
Okay, sure. Let me see, because I didn't see any mail regarding that group, or maybe I might have missed it.
Yeah, most of them are already part of that group. No issues.
Okay.
You can just drop me your mail ID and we'll get you added there.
Okay, so where can I share the mail ID?
Do you have Oprimes profile?
Yes, I do have.
Yeah, so just go to your Gmail. In GChat, just search for team@oprimes.com, Hangouts or a GChat, whatever you call these days. So just go there and add us, team@oprimes.com, and we'll address you there.
Okay, let me check. I haven't used this GChat for long, so I'm not sure how that works. Okay, I'll try to figure it out. Okay.
No problem. We'll I can help you with that at the end of this call.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.